I think the approach and the attitude that should be taken is that of co-ownership and co-leadership by the Africa CDC. This is an agenda that we all own. And by we, I mean the institution as well as the young people. This, however, requires investment. Investment for exploration, investment for research and development, investment to actually make mistakes. Because it's okay to make mistakes as we are figuring things out collectively. So that's, secondly, I think there has to be a relook in terms of requirements. Because it's the requirements and the barriers to entry that usually shut young people out, right? You have to have X years of experience in this X particular field, etc. But aren't we crowding out the innovators? Aren't we crowding out, you know, the creatives? The people who Fahan is referring to, who can read a policy document but interpret it differently in such a poetic or beautiful way that, you know, most people will get to grasp. So I think looking at policy differently is going to be extremely important. And I think one thing that this is not for Africa CDC, but for all institutions. Let's move away from patronage and for setting up positions for those who are connected. But let's actually base things on merit for young people. So I think I'll end there.
Thank you very much.
I'm getting the look.
Gerald saying let them democratize the space and not involving the same set of young people over and over and over again. Let me come to you, Mole. What would be your advice to the Africa CDC on how best to engage young people in its policy formulation and implementation processes?
I think firstly we need to acknowledge that not everyone can be part of the process. We need to be honest about that, and it's expensive and also time consuming, but the capacity, that is very important. I think what Secuirty mentioned in terms of the causes, what is out there to ensure that young people, even those that are not in the room, even those that are not directly involved with Africa CDC, but in their own corners, are able to still meaningfully engage with the processes and share their opinions and, you know, into what Africa CDC wants to do is something that is important, because honestly, the level of effort in itself being part of the policy processes is something that is time consuming. It's a big issue, and I think with innovation, as Gerald said, that Africa CDC needs to look into that, and we need to make sure that in our different countries we push the agenda of meaningful youth engagement and participation, and not only being part of the process when you are in the room, but when you are in your country, in your school, university. And I think yesterday there was mention about what Betania was saying about how what Yelda was had established in terms of pushing the Agenda 2063. So if we have such processes, then it means in the different corners we are able to still push the same agenda, but making sure that we leave no one behind. And I think also democratization, it's very important, and we need to leave out tokenism. This one I'm very passionate about. Leave out tokenism, and also gatekeeping as young people. Open up spaces for others, and be prepared to mentor. I think mentorship is something, we've heard about it also yesterday, how inspiring it is to see you meet somebody for the first time, and then the next time you see them, like, I saw you at that conference and you inspired to be public health specialist. You inspired me to move into policy. You inspired me to read or be an innovator.
All right, thank you very much. Secuirty, your thoughts?
I'll fire the points for you, Rotimi, so I don't stress you. But just to say, streamline it across all policies, all processes, right? How many policies have already been there? But I know that Africa CDC has such a young, emerging public health workforce within the organization, which is exciting. But, you know, I think also externally streamline it across would be great. The inputs at every process is important. Provide support. And this is the biggest lesson I had, because no one taught me how to be in the policy space. case. I figured it out, right? And I've been lucky and fortunate to figure it out. But I've worked, for example, and I'm going to be very open, I've worked with HIV activists, and a lot of them, and absolutely phenomenal speakers, but they never finished school. We tried to get them to finish their matric at least. One day I'd come back from a trip and I'd ask them, can you calculate certain things? They could not even calculate. So don't underestimate the capacity of young people on this continent. We really need to be able to provide support. You can't just throw a 16-year-old onto a panel discussion and expect meaningful contribution. There has to be, I'm not saying script the person, there has to be support, there has to be professionalization, capacity development. I like Jared's point about creativity. And young people bring to the table transformational ideas. And just to give one example, I work with Michelle McIsaac on gender at WHO. And I come up with the craziest ideas. Next week we're having a gender rest fest. But someone like that, you need that enabling environment to say, come with the creative ideas, come with the transformational power. I'll end off then saying that every young person who's involved must become a champion and an implementer. So it's a continuous process.
Thank you very much. I hear what you all have said as advice to the Africa CDC. And I also like Gerard's point around also give young people the room and the opportunity to make mistakes. Oftentimes we hear when people create spaces for young people, they invite one or two young persons to the room and they say, hey, when we brought them, they were only came to take selfies and eat food and wear nice clothes. We're not inviting young people anymore. Please, this is a generation, a social generation. They will take selfies. Doesn't mean they will not contribute in the room, but also give them the opportunity to learn and fail forward. I'll take the final round of questions before we close this session. Let me see. I know the first hand is here, so you don't need to raise it again. Any other hand in the room? I see a second hand there. I see a third here. And then the gentleman far behind, that's number 4. Is there any fifth one before I close this round? Any hand I am not seeing? I think that is all. All right, like we did with the first round, can I get the roving mic? And then number 5. And then roving mic, okay, you have a mic. Straight to the point, 1 minute so that we can take everybody.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Bonga, I'm from South Africa. My question is directed towards you, Shakira. Yesterday we were having a conversation and what was brought up was building new things or creating new things in a crowded space. And you mentioned the word fragmented. You mentioned the word fragmented in the context of we already have a lot of things going on, but maybe what we need more of is collaboration. My second comment is that I love the fact that you played devil's advocate. I loved when you brought up the fact that, yes, it would be great to be creative with policies and policy spaces, but maybe at the end of the day, someone may need to sit down and actually read what was going on. I really appreciated that. And I guess my question or comment is that I would love to hear the bone you want to pick with Rotimi about policy implementation. Please pick that bone with him. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 2. I think the second person is on the side of the room.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Joel, and I come from Uganda. My question is going to go to anyone on the panel. When we talk about policy making and implementation, I think we cannot forget to mention civil society and also the role that media plays. In most African countries, I see it's easier to make policies, but execution remains a big problem. And one thing I see in many countries is also that there is a shrinking civil society space. And also media freedom is also not very good day by day. So we are also talking about involving local communities in all of these processes. So how do you see the future of policy making and execution if this trend continues, like in the next 5-10 years? Right. And what might be done? Thank you
very much. On this side of the room, we have one or two questions, and then the lady with hand. I've seen a lot of questions from South Africa. South African participants are very active here. The bunch here, and someone here on this table. I'm not seeing questions from Nigeria, Ghana, West Africa. All right, over to you.
At least I'm from East Africa, though I live in South Africa.
You see, South Africa again.
So I'm going to ask make a more or less problematic statement. I think we're forgetting to talk about the politics of policy implementation, right? African Union is known to be a big boys club. Getting into these spaces is very difficult. So we tend to blame young people, say young people are not participating, but we are there. Young people are actually known to be speaking in spaces. Go to the UN human rights system. Young Africans are constantly being given spaces and opportunities. But within the African region, the politics are a bit too heavy for young people. Another problem is issues around funding. Policy implementation requires funding. We must invest in young people participating. We cannot engage young people anymore as volunteers. People need to eat, people need to make money, people need to grow professionally. So we want them to participate in policy-making spaces, but as volunteers, it's not sustainable. So we have to rethink how we engage young people. We've been talking about co-creation, co-leadership, and co-ownership. We are not talking about co-creation. We need to create the blueprint of engaging young people together. Don't bring us only with co-leadership and co-ownership. Let's create the blueprints together. But the narrative that young people are not doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is not true. We are educated, we are learned, we are trying to engage, but the gatekeepers are not making it possible because inaccessibility makes it difficult for people to be held accountable. So the inaccessibility, in my opinion, is actually strategic because if you have people who don't know their rights and cannot access spaces where they can hold leaders accountable, then the status quo is maintained.
Thank you very much. And I see that your comments resonate with a lot of people in the room. We would provide some perspective from this side of the room.
Thank you very much. My name is Lompo from Lesotho. My main concern, I don't know whether it's an opinion or question, it's in line with policy making or formulation. Whether are we involving different expertise with regard to making the policy. What I've seen is when the issue or we want to make a policy related to something health arena, we just focus on health, medical scientists. Do you find it important to involve even social scientists as well within the youth so that we make that policy our policy, not their policy? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think there's a final and somewhere here. Yes.
Bonjour. Comment on va faire? Je suis francophone. D'accord. Donc, moi, c'est Zara Issa du Niger. D'accord. Nous sommes là tout le temps à parler de l'implication des jeunes. L'implication des jeunes, oui, beaucoup de jeunes sont impliqués. Mais malheureusement, les jeunes qui sont impliqués ne donnent pas souvent l'exemple. Parce qu'il le faut. Les jeunes qui sont au devant, qui ont été mis, qui ont eu la chance d'être mis au devant, ils doivent donner l'exemple au niveau de leur communauté. Ma deuxième contribution, c'est surtout sur la collaboration entre les structures de jeunesse. Aujourd'hui, on a des multitudes de structures de jeunesse, mais malheureusement, qui ne collaborent pas ensemble. Et tant qu'on part en rang dispersé, on ne peut pas impacter réellement. Ma troisième aussi contribution est Les jeunes, on a des idées, on a des projets, mais malheureusement, des fois, on a du mal à avoir le financement nécessaire pour la mise en œuvre de ces innovations ou bien de ces idées ou des projets. Et pour ce qui est du cas du Niger précisément, quand vous prenez la majorité des jeunes n'ont pas la même chance que les autres jeunes qu'on est ici. Ils sont en milieu rural. Ils n'ont pas accès à tout ce qu'on dit, tout ce qu'on est en train de dire, la nouvelle technologie. Et ils n'ont pas accès à l'information, ils n'ont pas accès à la formation. Donc comment faire pour vraiment atteindre ces jeunes-là? Parce qu'ils sont une écrasante partie de notre communauté. Merci.
We've had all the questions. I would come to the panelists on their reflections on the question. I hear a number of things talking about the policy process, the Boys Club at the African Union, and or stopping the practice of using young people as volunteers. But I can tell you, volunteerism remains one of the lowest hanging fruits for young people to gain skills and to get a leg into the system. I can tell you for free. I support that volunteering should be sustainable, meaning that we must put some resources in the pockets of young people who volunteer so that that process can be sustainable. That's what I always advocate for. But it's the lowest barrier that allows young people to gain skills and gain experience and an understanding of how the system works. And I also like your idea around funding. And I think that a lot of young people who are called older youths now have walked the path and are now in spaces where they control the resources. I don't want to name names in this room. I know some of them are seated in this room. But it's that kind of collaboration that we're talking about where we need to network and speak to them and allow the mentorship to continue to show the way on how they have done it and how they can resource the system and other young people so that they can get ahead into the spaces. I am not a panelist. I just wanted to share those few thoughts before I come to the panelists for their final thoughts on these issues. You've heard the questions that have come in from the room. Let me start first with Shakira, and then I'll come down the line until the end.
Okay, so I know this is being recorded, but here's a nice, hopefully a nice outcome from this meeting. How about Africa CDC appointing 54 health policy analysis or analysts to work at Africa CDC on each country's health policies? I think that would be incredible. It speaks to the point of professionalization, and I think that's important. I really want to thank the colleague who just said I could speak a little bit about the implementation question. She's overridden all our powers, and I think that's the power we want, is two-way engagement in policy process, not just one way, which we always see. I came here this morning hoping to be able to unpack two things, and it's on a practical level, and I think it's really important as we think about developing a continental strategy. We need to think about the levels of policy making, and Jared spoke a little bit about it. There's global level, right? There's continental/regional level. There's national level, and then there's subnational, and there's district level. So I think when we talk about being in the policy making space, we need to think along that structure, but also as young people, which specific level do we want to work at? Then we're talking about public health policy in fluff. I'm just going to be honest, because it's massive, it's huge. We have universal health coverage, we have adolescent sexual reproductive health, we have non-communicable diseases, neglected tropical diseases, oral health. So it's really important for us when we talk about policies and engaging youth in policies, which policies? HIV policies, youth are engaged through the Global Fund. So I think it's very important that when we talk about this, we talk about it at a very practical and a very nuanced level. But I do want to end off on the implementation bit, and that builds on the previous point, is that we shouldn't come and say that there's no implementation. Because I think that's unfair to say. For those of us who work in this space, we know that you have condoms in schools or condoms in certain public spaces, because that's an HIV policy. You have an insecticide-treated gnat for malaria, because that's a policy. Where the policies that we're failing on is the health system's policies. That's universal health coverage. So I think it's really important for us when we're having, and it was irking me, I'm so sorry, Rotimi, I'm so happy that someone said I could say it, but you know, when we're talking about youth inclusion in policies, let's be practical. And that's something for CDC to also take away.
All right, Gerald?
Yeah. I think there was some very important points that were raised, and I think that the points that the lady who spoke raised, we struggled with those even when we were youth, to be honest. And I'm hoping that maybe what I can share now might help you as well. Approach is also very important. Policy is political. When you are younger, you are very much vocal and activist in terms of approach. And you're like, why isn't this being done this way? I remember that's how we started. I don't know about you guys. And then you realize that depending on the audience you are engaging, you need to know them. And you need to have a strategy for actually engaging that particular audience. If it's senior folk, there's a language that they speak. If it's peers, there's a language that peers speak, right? That's the first thing. The issue on funding aligns as well with that. Funding is a function of value. You sometimes wonder, why are certain organizations or individuals always receiving funding and I'm not receiving funding? The question is, have you understood what value they are providing vis-a-vis what value you are providing as an individual, right? When I sort of got to understand that and I started taking a different path, I was now investing more in actually saying what is value that I can offer, that people can pursue me. An organization and institution should actually pursue you and say, you seem to have the answer for this, right? And you should, have something that is of value and of substance. So because when you sit on the sidelines and you say we're not getting funding, it will actually never come. But if you actually sit and you say to yourself, I need to package something that people, I'm an entrepreneur, guys. So you have to constantly sell a product that people want. And it's the same whether you're in CSO, whether you're in media, whether you're in whatever industry you are. Package something to a point where Africa CDC is calling you. There's a reason why she's been appointed on so many advisory boards, because of the value that she's offered over years, right? And you have a very strong point, and I think maybe this is where we are in life now, and yourself, and ourselves, Rotimi. What are we teaching the younger generation that we have learned over time? The mistakes we've made are very important to learn so that you don't repeat the same mistakes, right? What helped us get to, areas where we've actually impacted. In a short space of time, I shared a small story of what we achieved in 3 years. And that's not me being at the front, but that's young people leading that. It's because I had learned a few lessons. So I just wanted to sort of take it back a bit and say, as we are thinking about these things, even approaches to Africa CDC, etc., let's be mindful of those practicalities in life where, being here, you guys are valued. 3,000 plus applicants, and there are 200 people here. You guys definitely have something to offer. So the question is now, what are you actually going to offer? Which the 3,000 who didn't make it into this room will say, we were properly represented by a group of people that went there. So let me pause there. I hope this is helpful to you guys.
All right, Mulai?
I think colleagues have already alluded to it. The professionalization of youth work, it's very important, but we need to start somewhere. As somebody who started in volunteering, I know and understand the value of volunteerism. It has built me to be the person I am today. Without the education and the background in public policy, but being in these spaces helped me, I learned, and with the support of the people that were around me. So it is very important, I think. I agree with you. We need to make sure that bills are paid. Because if I can give you an example, a lot of young people struggle who are volunteers and have access to these spaces because coming to these meetings, you miss school, you miss work, and you are passionate about public health or anything that you are pushing. But at the end of the day, you have to also calculate your risks and costs. So it is also very important. I think the shrinking civil society space, yes, that is very true. But it's also another gap. because we are separating civil society from politics or policies and everything when our work is interlinked, and we cannot do the other without being together. I think the last one is on, same as civil society space shrinking, social entrepreneurs. I think we tend to provide, or at least make sure that we separate ourselves, which is something that we need to make sure that when we own the processes, we do not leave anyone behind. I think it also takes a lot of engagement and those collaborations, making sure that we share information, we make sure that we involve each other even beyond the rooms that we sit in. I think I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think I would also like to add to the conversation by saying I started as an activist, I became an advocate. These days, I mobilize resources, partnerships, and funding. And one hack I would give to you is that some of my biggest funding and resources have come from side conversation at conferences. I don't come to only listen to the conversation. I come to target who are the people who have dollars in their pockets and who have checks in their bags. I know how to identify them. I watch what they say on the podium, and I approach them for a side conversation after the session. And I know many of you will be attending the main conference after this conversation, and I'd like and want to urge you to do the same. Watch out for the donors, watch out for the partners, watch out for the directors. Some of them are here in this room. They have resources to offer. They have partnerships to offer. Don't let it just end by the conversations in the group works and on these panel sessions. During tea and coffee, walk up to them. Trust me, some of the people seated here, if you want to meet them in their offices, it will be an Herculean task to achieve that because of the kind of work that they do and the busy schedule that they run. And so I'll just leave that as an advice to everyone in the room. But before I close this panel, final thoughts. I see my panelists lobbying me that they have one more thing to say before we close this panel session. I'll start with Secuirty. Let's keep it short. What are your final thoughts on this panel before we close?
This one's going to make everybody's mics drop, but just to say that, speaks to the gentleman who raised a question about the future of policy making, and that is political. It is political, and the way I envision it is it's not going to change. They're deeply bureaucratic and structural processes. But as a young person, you can shift things. Slowly, but it takes time. It's a tough journey ahead. I'll end off saying that I did probably the most revolutionary thing while I was in the African Union. I wrote my complaints about youth engagement directly to the chairperson of the African Union, and I signed off Dr. Secuirty, and I sent that email. But that's just an idea of these representatives are in our spaces, and they're meant to be serving us, not us serving them. And we should write. We should try and get in touch with policymakers. Absolutely. And if we don't get the headway, then we need to advocate and lobby.
Yeah, thank you. I think as you're thinking about, for those thinking about, playing within the policy space, maybe there's a few things that you need to sort of, a small checkbox that you might need to have, right? Number one is the space and the intervention that you have pragmatic and implementable. That's the first thing. The second thing is the demand for it, and how many people are struggling with that same particular thing. The third thing is can you mobilize allies for it, right? And if you can, great. The fourth thing is, I think, on communication, and we've touched on communication quite a bit, is it something that can be communicated easily and, can be made palatable for people to understand. So I think those are quick checkboxes I'll just want to leave with everyone. And then just maybe a quick note or comment to what Rotimi said about the conference. Please do take those very seriously. A lot of what I've done is because I've shown up to places without getting paid, sometimes at my own cost because I am pursuing something. And I would also want to shamelessly plug an event that we have tomorrow as a side event that we have tomorrow where, we'll have Ibrahim speaking, we'll have Dr. Promise speaking, and some brilliant young people who will share lessons of how they've gotten to where they're going to. And it's really focused on the role of young people in the new public health order. So I encourage you all to be there, because there are also potential partners who are looking at working with and engaging young people who want to interact with young people. And I think, because of what we've learned today, let's have your script, have your story. Don't be shy to, grab someone and begin engaging them. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Gerald, for marketing on my panel, you owe me $500. All right, I'll come to Molai.
The cost is worth it.
All right.
Thank you. I think all has been said. Put yourself out there. Also read the room, make those connections, and be on the lookout on what is happening in your community, in your country, so that it is escalated to the regional level and ultimately global level. And yeah, let's not take volunteering for granted. It really helps. It opens doors for you. And also, I think in closing, my name is Teboho Mohlwai. So Mohlwai is my surname, my father's name. Thank you.
Teboho.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you believe that these panelists have done... All right, I see that Dr. Promise wants to make a comment before we close.
Thank you, Rotimi. Just before you end the session, I had a comment from Faith, so I'll pass the mic, and this is for Dr. Shanura. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'll just start. So we've had a very interesting comment and essence from the very amiable panel this morning, and you've touched on very critical points around ensuring that the language that is framed for policy is actually meeting and the needs of the audience. I just want to put all of you on the spot. Could I please ask you, before leaving this conference today, identify people in this room who you can mentor? Because mentorship is very important. These are skills that have come to you over time, because you've built it over time. So please mentor someone. And I'll hold all of you accountable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. She's talking to the panelists, right? All right, thank you very much. I'm joking, I know it's to all of us. Thank you very much for that, and we will hold ourselves accountable for making sure that is done. If you'd like to gain entrance into the WHO and learn about the policy processes, she's also had experience at the African Union and created spaces for young people. Please speak to Dr. Shakira. Gerard has had a lot of experience as an entrepreneur. He knows how to mobilize resources and to build partnerships. If you're interested in that, kindly speak to him. Teboho also has worked with the Regional Youth Network and also has a lot of experience working on the policy space and sexual and reproductive health in Southern Africa. If you'd like to have an understanding of how that is done, please speak to her. These days, the only thing I do is resource mobilization. If you want to know how to mobilize resources, please also speak to me. Ladies and gentlemen, if you believe that these panelists have done an excellent job today, please a round of applause for them. And on this note, I'll hand over to Ibrahim.
Wow. Again, we can't stop clapping for a master class of a session. Thank you very much for this brilliant session. I mean, there's just so much to unpack. And this was our expectation, at least for the sessions today, that we begin to now narrow down to the things that we can do going forward. I think quite a number of issues came up. Policy is key. I think that this session has told us clearly how key policy is for all of us, how messy it is, but equally how important that regardless of the messiness, we have to engage. Investment is very key. Maybe I can talk about a few numbers. 5 years, 6 years ago, Kigali to Addis Ababa would cost you $400, $500. Today, it's about $1,200. If you buy early, you probably get for 800. So for those of you who have come from Addis, just look at $1,200 times the number of people in this room. For those who come from afar, it's even more, $1,700, $2,000. Tickets alone, accommodation, materials, setup, engaging young people, as it is with engaging citizens, is expensive. However, I want to nuance that, and that is actually my point. We are not just talking of the continental engagements. We're talking of engagements that you do on your street. We're talking about the engagement you do in your community associations. We're talking of the engagements you do in your region, in your province, in your municipal, in your state. And we're also talking of the ones you then do at this level and, of course, at the global. I think that Dr. Shonara talked about the levels. We're saying this because the reason why we've brought 200 of you, and at least those who are joining us online, is that you also help multiply this information when you go back home. It is not for you to just consume and keep to yourself. In our selection, we looked at your ability to be able to replicate and multiply the information that you've received when you go back. So please, this is a challenge, because this is the only way we can reach everyone. I mean, we're talking about 3,007 like it's a lot of numbers for the continent of young people on the continent. It's a drop in the ocean. I mean, 3,007 is, I don't know how many percent of the youth population in Kigali, not to talk of Rwanda, not to talk of 55 AU member states. So it's a reality that we have to be alive to, and we all have a responsibility. It is not the Africa CDC, it is not GIZ, it is not MasterCard. We all have to play our role at the different levels that we occupy. One other point I want to make is that the African CDC started the AU Bingwa initiative for the COVID-19 vaccination. But some of the conversations that are already ongoing is that this is going to be a framework for not just the COVID-19 vaccination, for broader issues on the continent. So think of it as Africa CDC's own community health workers. 200 of them were trained 2 weeks ago in Dar es Salaam. Many more will be trained in other regions as well. The idea is also to take that message from the continental to the communities. So it is nice, it is fancy, it is lovely to call ourselves Bingwas. And I must commend, because somehow someone added me to their WhatsApp group. I must commend those who have been trained in East Africa, because you actually see people go on the streets, go to communities, to border drivers, to bus drivers, to schools. And that is how we are also trying, at least from the continental level, supporting the African Union to be able to get this thing on the ground. So for those of you who don't know about the Bingwa initiative, please read up about it. There are quite a lot of information on it on the internet already. And you can, of course, speak to the colleagues from the Africa CDC. I guess the last point before we go into the next session I'd like to make is, I do not think that our colleagues at Africa CDC and, of course, the partners who are supporting them in this initiative, we're not trying to create anything new. You guys are already doing it. We're not coming to come and be competing with the good work you're already doing in your communities, in your regions. We're not doing that. What we're trying to do is to amplify what you're doing, to give you the platform, to give you the space, to give you the stage, to interact, to connect, to transfer your ideas from one region, part of the continent, to another part of the continent, to build collaborations. This is what we're trying to do. So this strategy that we've been talking about is not that the Africa City wants to come and do everything, because it cannot. You are already doing it. But like Rotimi kept emphasizing, if you're able to articulate what you're doing very well, you're able to market it in a very nice way. In this room, there are people who might be able to support you. So it's also an opportunity for you to increase the scope and the scale of the work that you're doing. So this is also an important point that I really want to communicate to you. So we are not going to compete with you. The fragmentation will always be there, and it's good. Because this is a continent of 1.2 plus billion people. We do not even have enough. You understand? So we must continue to create and create. But as we do that, what we should avoid is unhealthy competition. You understand? Competition is good. It is only bad when it's unhealthy. When we are all backbiting and doing all kinds of funny things so that you don't want this organization to give that organization fund or whatever, that is when it becomes problematic. But if we're looking at what they're doing in Nigeria and we're saying, maybe we can do that also here in Rwanda. Oh, maybe what they're doing in Rwanda, oh, we can do it in Lesotho. Oh, maybe we can do it in Mozambique. That is how that competition helps to improve the value of what we're trying to do. So I hope that at least with this viewpoint, I try to bring home some of the points that the panelists have tried to pass this morning. One of the things, and I'm making a commitment to our partners, the Africa CDC, on this, that maybe one of the things we should think about as part of the strategy is a boot camp, a policy boot camp for young health professionals. I think we might be able to support that, and it's one of the things that we should look at how we do that, because as we have seen, they know all these professional things, but the trick of policy making is still a black box. And hopefully maybe through a boot camp, we can find a way to do that. But that's just one of the ideas. I know my colleagues are looking at me, but we'll deal with it at the team meeting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're moving next to one of the TEDx-style talks that we have this morning. This will be focusing on community health workers. We regard them as pillars of public health in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we put our hands together as I invite from the African Medical Research Foundation, AMREF, Miss Jennifer. Jennifer, please. In 10 minutes, she will share with us the work of AMREF around community health workers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you very much for this opportunity, Ibrahim and Africa CDC. I was just thinking when you were sitting down, in the categorization of generations, there should be an in-between generation. Because sometimes you feel like you're a youth, but when you look at the age category, then you're like, hey, I'm actually not a youth. But then again, we are in this space that we can share our experiences because one of our foot is on this side and one of our foot is outside the category of being a youth. So my name is Jennifer Mawa. I work with AMREF Health Africa, supporting a unit called SPARC. SPARC is Strategic Purchasing Africa Resource Center. And part of what we do is support reforms in the different countries on the areas of strategic health purchasing. But I'm here today to talk about community health workers as a pillar for public health initiatives. And to start us off, I would like us to just think, what if we enjoy life that is disease-free? Because yesterday, Dr. Koshino reminded us that we are here because health is life. What if the diseases that we do have today, communicable or non-communicable, can actually be contained? Let's say 50%. Let's say 50%. Maybe that's good enough. So thirdly, I'm still thinking, what if today we are seated here, but our aging parents and our ailing grandparents can actually access their medical needs at the comfort of their homes? Because some of us are here, but suddenly you have to organize a vehicle that is dropping your dad, your mom to a hospital. They need some medical attention. And just to drive this home, it's about the question of the youth. What if our youth today were the vessels of us achieving the Africa Health Agenda? Are we in a position to support our communities? And lastly, what if you and I can actually work in this health sector, contributing to a better space in health? So you notice that most governments and partners have actually been working around the clock. And what have they been doing? They are trying to deliver health services to their population as close as possible. But some of the challenges they are facing that are related to what we are talking about today are one, how do we efficiently deliver key life-saving interventions to our populations? Secondly, how do we overcome the challenge of distance and geographical barriers in working around this? And thirdly, it is a challenge of cultural gap between trained professionals and our locals in the communities. Because sometimes they do not understand our language. It could be too high level. Those are some of the challenges that are actually being faced by our governments. So the question is, could community health workers be the solution to these challenges? That is a question that you and I need to ask ourselves. I look at what has happened in some of the countries in Africa today. Ethiopia, for example, in 1970s, employed community health workers. They called them community health extension workers or the community development army. And the disease burden in Ethiopia then were issues to do with child mortality, malaria, among others. And fast forward, 1997, I think 98, Ethiopia was looking at moving its health agenda from curative to promotive. And how were they going to drive this using their primary healthcare framework? They decided to work with the community health workers. And what has been the impact in Ethiopia? I think some of us know about this. We've read about this. They're actually one of the most improved health sectors in Africa today. Let's look at Zambia. I know we have quite a number of countries that have adopted this framework. Zambia followed suit just a few years ago. And what they are looking at is implementing primary health care. And for Zambia, what they've done is actually mainstreamed this framework to a point of they do offer a one-year training to these community health workers in the areas of curative, preventive, and rehabilitative medicine. For them as well, the agenda has been to drive the primary health care. Whereas the impact in Zambia may be too soon to be measured, what we are saying is we are already seeing the outcome looking very positive. I want to share a story, and I'm glad that we have people from South Africa in the room today. A few months ago, I visited a clinic in Soweto. It's called Chawelo Clinic. And the reason I visited is because we were supporting the drafting of a policy information document on primary health care. And we needed to see an example of what had been done in South Africa. And trust me, it was amazing. It was amazing to see a community health worker in their fingertips They know whom they are serving, what their age is, what they suffer from, whether they are on any medication, when is their medication running out, what do they need delivered in their doorstep. And for any health change that happened within those communities, they were able to identify and record that. So what we are saying is there are countries that have actually implemented community health workers
institutions that are present here
but not without challenges. And the main challenges have, of course, been around sustainability, institutionalization, and issues to do with scaling up. How do you scale up within the limited budgets in our health sectors today? Growing up, I used to see community health workers come to our home, and their interest areas were checking out on vaccination and immunization schedules. At that point in time, there was also a deworming schedule that they needed to check up on. They would even inform our parents of any new policy that had come up in the health ministry and needed to be communicated to the people. The question is, who is a community health worker? We might know these people, but can we define who they are? A community health worker is a frontline health worker, layman or professional, trained or non-trained, from any gender, who is committed to delivering health services within their communities. What works very well for these people is they foster trust with the people they work with. Reason being, they come from those communities. Can you imagine if your doctor was someone you knew from your village? Would you trust them more with the medication they're giving you? So for community health workers, it's been so easy for them to reach out to the communities and deliver, be it a message, information, medication, or whatever information needs to be delivered. And most importantly, they reach out to the underserved communities within Africa, ensuring that they can actually access healthcare services. Moving on, we are looking at how then does community health workers relate to public health, and what is public health about? It is about the population, it is about health. So in what ways does a community health worker support the public health initiatives? One, it's around the issue of data. Community health workers can collect first-hand primary data from the people in our communities. As I told you, they can know the demographics of these people. They know what they're suffering from, whatever medications they are in, whatever age they are in, and whatever health hazards they're exposing themselves to. They're in a position to collect this data. And public health is about assessing this data to make informed decisions and inform policy in the process. Communication. Public health is about communicating the policies, the regulations, health information that we do have, down from the upper level of the, in our point of reference here, continental, national, provincial, district, to the lower level of the communities. Who can do this better? The community health workers. They are in touch with the people on the ground. Advocacy. Community health workers can advocate for their patients. They can pass on the information so that you can know what patients are suffering from, what the health sector is catering for, and what it is not. Again, it informs the decisions around our resource allocation, our planning, our delivery. There are so much other convergence between community health workers and the public health space. And it goes without saying that community health workers are actually a pillar of our public health initiatives. Without them, we may not be able to do much. And right now, we may not be at a point of discussing further whether we actually need them. There is evidence that it works. There is evidence that interventions that have used community health workers have been successful. The big question is how? The big question is which model will work better? Which model will ensure that this is sustainable, this is scalable, and our ministries of health can actually mainstream community health workforce as part of the other professions. So I leave you with one quote from the WHO. Director General, I think we do have a quote that I had shared. The increased coverage of essential health services and improved equity in coverage envisioned by well-functioning community health workers programs will result in fewer deaths, illnesses, and lower disease burdens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. And I think I would just immediately invite Secuirty and Franklin from Intra-Health, who would share with us what they're doing at Intra-Health on issues related to community health work. Yes, can we encourage them, give them a big round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Ayu Bingwa. I'm going to teach you all this. When I say Ayu Bingwa, you say shoot your shot. Let's try that one more time. Ayu Bingwa. Ayu Bingwa. Thank you very much. My name is Ipora Reki. I am a nurse, healthcare worker advocate, and young champion for the youth with Switchpoint. That is a production for Intra-Health and the Global Fund. Allow me to hide behind the podium to hide the shaking of my legs. I'm very nervous. So just an introduction to what the Future League is. We are part of the Future League. The Future League is a group of 7 young leaders who are representing 6 countries, and we are using our voices to lead our generation to a better and stronger health for the future and the future that we hope for. And even as we do this presentation, we would call you to actually think about what kind of future for health would you want to see. And you know, our speakers who have come before have been brilliant. Thank you very much. For everyone who has come to the podium today, has talked about us claiming our spaces, about us using our voices, you know, to address the needs in our communities. So what is your voice and what are you using it to do? And so our project, the Future League, is supported by the Intra-Health and the Global Fund, as you can see on our very wonderful slides. So, like I said, we are 6 individuals. We had one join us just the other day. We're from Nigeria, Cameroon, Rwanda, myself from Kenya, Zimbabwe, and Malawi. And we are here because we are excited about the future. And we are not scared to take our position in the society and fight for the kind of future that we want to do. And some of our goals are to build greater and stronger global health security, to ensure that there's an equitable end to the COVID-19 pandemic, better and more widely available health services for everyone, and as well to support the healthcare workforce. And today we are going to be focusing on the community healthcare workers. So as we continue, I'd just like to find out from all of you, how many of us have had the opportunity to work with a community healthcare worker? Anyone? Is there, thank you very much for those hands. Is there any of us who is a community healthcare worker in their country? Oh, we have 3. Let us give them a round of applause. Madam Jennifer has done an amazing job in laying the platform for us in our presentation today, and we're just going to be borrowing a lot from what she has said today. So like she described, community healthcare workers are primary healthcare workers. They are at the very front line. And essentially, these are healthcare workers who have been picked by people in their communities. So like she said, they have the trust of the community. And the beautiful thing about community healthcare workers is that they can reach people where they eat, where they sleep, where they live, where they work, where they play, you know, where they go for sherehe, as we like to say as Kenyans. And not just that, they are able to get the information where it is needed. You know, it's very sad that in parts of my country, and I know this is, you know, very similar in many other countries, is that for some communities they have one center that is taking care of people within a block radius of like 50 kilometers going up to 200 kilometers. And these are the situations that we have in our countries. So then how do we bridge the gap? How do we get these healthcare services to them, people in those communities? And the only way to get there is through the healthcare workers who are the community healthcare workers, as we are talking about today. And data shows that in the near future, by 2030, we are going to have a shortage of 18 million healthcare workers. And this is inclusive of the community healthcare workers. And I saw a post one day that says, out of those 18 million, 10 million of those healthcare workers who are projected to have a shortage are going to be in the lower and middle income countries. And I want us to think about that for a minute. You know, we are losing a lot of healthcare workers to deaths by suicide because of the depression of the healthcare situations that they're forced to work under. We are losing healthcare workers to migration, you know, from Africa to other developed countries. We are losing healthcare workers to accidents or, you know, infection at the place of work. We are losing some to retirement. We are losing some to, you know, others quitting the profession altogether. And we can't afford, if we want to make sure that we get health to everybody, as is in the goal SDG number 3 and the Agenda 2063. If the goal is to get these healthcare services to everyone, then we have to consider the community healthcare workers who most of the time just go unrecognized or unremunerated. And that is what we want to discuss here today. So even as Franklin comes to share his story, I want us to think about what support or lack thereof are we giving to the community healthcare workers in our communities and in our countries.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Dr. Franklin Wisi from Cameroon. I'm an epidemiologist and global health security specialist. I'm also a youth advocate for the Future League Switch Point with InfraHealth. And I'm very grateful to be having this platform to share my experiences. I'm going to start by telling us a story. We all see the picture. That is a road that we have trekked. That is in the southeastern equatorial rainforest part of Cameroon. Next slide. That is me standing and gauging the road from far and making sure we don't enter the valley. That's one of my mentees, a student of the University of Nebraska. And one of my other colleagues, Jimmy. Please shout out to Jimmy. He is part of Creed and Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine. We're trying to head to that community to carry out a mapping of zoonotic diseases, emerging and emerging zoonotic diseases in Cameroon. Next slide. Here we are, talking with the chief and some community healthcare workers. Now, imagine the miles we had to trek. We had to enter a vehicle, a car, 4-wheel to reach that community. We cannot do that all the time. So we need community health care workers that when they are in that community and they have been trained and well motivated, they will carry out the functions that we have to leave from the central level in order to get to them. Next slide. This is also a lady, a picture by Clement Tadi of Infrared International. She knows these ladies and they have that kind of connection with her to pass out the message. Next slide. Now, despite this evidence of the importance of the effectiveness of community healthcare workers, they are not adequately funded. The lack of national support and domestic funding is an issue. We have to include community care workers into the cadre of salary. They have to be salary, making sure that they are motivated to do the work. And we also have to determine programs and the costs in order to implement some of these community healthcare programs that will have a long impact in the community health systems, especially the primary healthcare systems of the country. Next slide. This is also a lady taking blood pressure, and they have various interventions that they do at the community levels, which we'll be looking at them. We have vaccination against pneumococcus. It's a major cause of pediatric pneumonia in Africa, and it is gradually, the vaccine is being introduced in many African countries. We have treatment infantile malaria, and possibly the RTS AS01 malaria vaccine that is being implemented in countries. We have pediatric pneumonia, we have bed netting with insecticides, for example. We have COVID-19 vaccination promotion, and also which is like a part of the Bingwa initiative and all of that. The community healthcare workers have a role, have a voice to play. Next slide. At the end of the day, we need to have political will. They need to be that voice. We are the voice of the voiceless. We are urging our partners, our leaders, everyone, that these people matter, and that with them we can achieve goals. We have the Agenda 2063. We have universal health coverage. We have sustainable development goal 3. It is my pleasure talking with you. Here is our website, www.switchpoint. Please go back. ITS.com. We have created over more than 7 documentaries, each of us, that talk about intense issues into increasing domestic health financing, encouraging the public health workforce, community health workers, etc. We are the voice of the voiceless, and together we can light up the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we put our hands together for Dr. Franklin and Zipporah? Thank you. It's been a long morning, but has it been a useful one? Okay, so let's do this empirically. We have a barcode on the screen. Can you scan the barcode so we gauge the room before we go for tea? That way we know how far or how well we're doing this morning. Once you have that, the code to use is 3580 8300. 3580 8300. 3580 8300. If you're in, can I have a hi? Have you been able to access it? Internet is down. Oh, okay. So let's do this another way then. If you think the sessions this morning have been useful, raise your hand. Okay. If you think the sessions this morning have been awfully boring, raise your hand. Okay. That's good. If you think the sessions have been extremely good, let's see your hands. Extremely good. Okay. All right. So we're still struggling with the extreme levels. All right. That's fine. Oh, I think we're up on the screen now. Okay. So far so good. What is 35? Oh, the code. Okay. That's smart. Thank you, technical. Engaging, very interesting, informative, very educative, energetic. Someone says I to you too. All right. So that's good. I'm glad. It was slightly long, but we just thought that it was important to use the early morning energy to engage some of those issues. So we break for tea now, and we'll be back here at. This is what, 11:30 at 12. So see you in 30 minutes after break. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your morning. Yes, you can clap. Put the hands together for yourselves.